What's up, y'all? Let's pull some cards for this new moon slash fire trine. Um, yeah, people have been, I don't know, dealing with a lot. If it's been anything like my time, it's been very intense. So, we'll pull some of my Sacred Rose Tarot and then pull some of my regular playing cards that I super love and see what numerology has to say. I don't think I'm gonna do Angels and Demons just because those come out to be very long, and so I want to see if maybe that's just been too much for people. Because in one-on-one sessions, it's always fantastic. But I don't know. We're seeing. It's all an experiment. Um, So what I did grab was my amethyst, my black tourmaline, and my clear quartz, because sort of like bottom root chakra, sacral chakra to crown, and through the guidance of spiritual energy, I feel like that's a pretty um, useful overall combination. And everybody's kind of dealing with things differently. So those were just kind of what called to me today. But yeah, let's see what's up. What do we need to know in light of this fire chime, in light of this time now, with all of this energy brewing? If you're watching this, I'm sure you're focusing on your intention. If you are not, please do. Alright. There's some tension there. Alright. Alright. Okay. So you have two major arcana right off the bat. Bottom of the deck is the Death card. It's a beautiful card, one of my very favorite. But inverted. So what often happens with the death card is sort of cutting away at the fatty tissue of our lives. An inverted, there's a distillation of the dark parts of ourselves, but cutting away of essences of our life that are shrouding our perceptions in darkness and in fog, rather than dressing them in love and intuition and connection, and facilitating those streams through said lovely sort of amethyst energy, because those purples are very ethereal, third eye, intuition, spirituality, spiritual connection, what have you. And so center of this is the Chariot, which speaks to me a lot about momentum. I always say in hard times that for every downhill turn there is an uphill swing. And so you constantly have that going back and forth, and it's a matter of what you do with it and how you move forward with that information. Just like in physics, you can calculate the trajectory of things, given A, B, and C information. And the Chariot is a source where I believe we tap into information beyond ourselves, not outside of ourselves, because that's outside stimuli, but in a deep, eternal, ancestral, spiritual, ethereal way. In a lot of ways, when we sort of, lose our grounding or go through stuff, we call upon the ancestors, or we call our best friend and we're like, hey, I'm having a bad day. I feel like that's what the Chariot is saying right now, is reaching out to sources of strength, or sources that you find your strength in. And that's not other people. That's not like something physical or tangible per se. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it is something like ancestrally, or maybe it is people that maybe you're not reaching out to, but that do have your back, or situations that do have your back. There are 10 stars above his head, and surrounding the 3 in his crown that create this whole eminence, like a signal in the sky. I feel like this is very much that you are protected and you are guided, and this is a very intense time, an intense card. But with the 2 of these, I feel like those are your strongest factors, your internal strength and the strength that is part of your guiding light and part of your guiding sources. So around that we have the 7 of Pentacles inverted. And the 5 of Wands inverted. Interesting. Yeah, the only card that isn't inverted is the Chariot. Yeah, if you've been ignoring, ritual or meditation, and that's definitely a thing that happens because it's been a really intense week, and depression can be an asshole and all of these things. But I feel like this is very much like the trajectory of reaching out, and maybe that's in a literal context, but also, sometimes it's just, in your mind, calling out to light beings, calling out to your ancestors, and calling out to, whatever source of energy it is that you deal with in your life for strength. Even calling out to your own intuition. because I think that's what this death card is also saying, is maybe you're not really trusting your own intuition in these things, and allowing for more of the darkness and the vastness of it to be overwhelming when you could be focusing on new light, if that makes sense. So the Seven of Pentacles, like 5s and 7s are like God manifestation numbers or what have you. And what I just said about this light is he's very much coming from a source of the sun, and again shrouded in those 3 stars that we even find here. If you catch that. So what I am also kind of getting with the 7 of Pentacles inverted is there's 6 in the ground. There's 6 with him, and in bushels of roses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 25 roses, which 2 plus 5 is 7, so you have another 7 kind of around you, which speaks to that Chariot as well. We may not feel like we have these, sources around us, and maybe that's the scare factor of, cards like this, but it's also embedded in the things around us, and the roses that are growing, and then he has the 6 pentacles on the ground, and the 7th pentacle is the shroud around him, is the sun that he's sort of standing in front of, and extending out as if he's still creating more. So inverted maybe tells me that you're afraid of creating more, and that you're failing to recognize that that 7th pentacle is you. You are a part of your wealth and growth and manifestations, and kind of is that, whole, act like you already have it, law of attraction stuff. Act like be grateful for what you already are, because there's growth all around you, and recognize that you are that power. If you study any kind of Wicca or witchcraft, yes, you have all of these things in your altar, in your space to kind of channel these energies, but at the end of the day, you have all of that in you. You have water in your body, you have fire in your body, you have earth in your grounding. All of these elements are something that we embody. So we are the magic. And I think that we often forget that, and so that death card, especially inverted, is, cutting away the fallacy of that blindness, and coming into being able to be the creator of new light, and with the blessing and guidance of all that we have gained in ourselves, and all that we have gained in our DNA ancestrally, and through past lives and past experiences, and trusting in that, because it's much smarter than you'd think. And even on his staff is like all forms of, or like 3 forms of like platonic solids, in gold. So you have this earth element followed by a major arcana, and it's trusting that you can manifest these things. Maybe we're operating in a place of fear and lack, which, friggin' pandemic, it's hard. But this is definitely reassurance that we don't have to operate from those places, and operating from those places is this death card inverted. And so 5 of Wands is following that. Again, inverted. And in front of the sun again, there's 2 figures. There's 1, 2, 3 figures technically, because there's 2 hands kind of reaching at him. One's yellow and one's white. And so if you know anything about astrology and what's been going on with the new moon and what have you, the moon and the sun and Mercury are all rocking out together. So I definitely get this vibe. There's maybe a feeling of being split by this lunar and solar energy, as if they're combating each other. But with Mercury there, it's a reminder that we have the ability to create balance. There is balance, and we are that balance, existing in between those. And I say this from personal experience because I'm a water moon and a sun fire sign. So I grew up kind of thinking like, oh, that's why I'm bipolar. Like they're constantly butting heads, and that, you know, there's like I'm at war with myself within myself, which is again this death card, almost like what I'm kind of gathering, and what these hands are is you feel like you're kind of being split in two. I had this notion that, you know, my water was canceling out my fire. It was putting out the fire, and not being utilized properly, or like we're working against ourselves, like we were just born into this. But the older I got, and I think the more that I've learned, that's not necessarily how it goes. You know, if you put a light by water, water refracts that light, and so it expands, and it expands exponentially within the water system, or that, you know, glass of water. If you put like a candle behind it, it absolutely expands. So that energy can absolutely fuel each other. It doesn't have to be something that feels like it's working against us. Also, what happens when you heat water? It boils, and then you have air element. And you have, you know, this realistic visualization of matter hanging in every particle and space in between, and that, you know, just like, you know, water evaporates and becomes the clouds, you know, rains and feeds the earth, and then you have your grounding. So it's a point in time where you have the options to let yourself put out your own fire, or to allow it to expand, because you have the capacity to. Because, like I said, that water doesn't have to be what cancels it out. It can very well be what creates the steam and the motion and the momentum, as if, you know, that chariot was a locomotive engine. Fives are also, again, I said 5s and 7s are those, you know, those God manifestation numbers. And I was just reading too that 4 is often seen as like a place of stability, but it's also a place of the reflection of our realities. Because, you know, 2 and 2 on either side. There's what is it? I don't know. I don't want to say a balance, but it's like a two-way mirror. When you recognize that reflection is a part, like that you're creating that reflection, and that you're refracting that light, like again, like I said, with the, you know, putting a candle in your water and how that, you know, expands the light. When you recognize that place, that 4 is a place of stability and can expand that light, that is where you get the 5s. That it's inverted tells me, you know, there's that splitting, and maybe feeling like the outside world is asking too much of you, other people are asking too much of you, and it's not in alignment with what you want to be doing, maybe, or what you feel is what you're calling, or what you're really being called to. And again, that kind of ties back to that death card, and putting to bed old habits or expectations where we were pleasing that out, like that which is outside of ourselves, which is ultimately a form of disconnection, and leads from, you know, almost this like bleeding, superficial heart color, because the deepest areas of our heart are green. But that superficial heart area of light, and that sort of fuchsia and pink, not even full red, into that purple, You're cloaked in your intuition already. I think you know these things, but you're ignoring them. And it's an easy time for that, but the Seven of Pentacles is a big deal here, and it's knowing that you yourself are all of these elements embodied. And because of that, you can direct your momentum where it be. Interesting. Oh, let me get some water. Interesting. What? And then, Yup. Yeah, ultimately, sticking with other people's expectations, feeling like you are at war with yourself or your own worst enemy, or being too much of a people pleaser is kind of the destruction of you. This is not a happy card, and there's nobody else there responsible for it. And it does look like a waning moon, but sort of strung up on his swords and stripped of his cloak. And yet he still bears, a purple garment, and is sort of bleeding into blue, which, that's pure blood. That's blood without outside oxygen. That blue, like the second you cut yourself and like we see it as red because of the oxygen in the air or what have you. Yeah, I feel like this is more foreboding if we do not flip ourselves in that death card and maintain this Five of Wands rather than recognizing the Seven of Pentacles. So the other two cards that came out was Eight of Wands and Three of Wands. So again, we kind of have, and like this is happening with all of this fire energy, have all of this fire energy, but it can be cultivated into beautiful things. This Three of Wands is again, manifestation number, God number. It's unity with the self. It's unity with source, and so much so that you have an offer to extend. And maybe that's what you're looking for, or don't have faith that you have in, or feel, tangled up in, or overwhelmed even, because he's shrouded again in a sun or moon and in light. But look at all those trees and that web in that corridor behind him. Almost of it as if it's keeping the light from shining out, and that's coming from a place of lack, like we're hoarding information, or we're hoarding what we've been learning or what we've been working on, for fear of extending all of that energy out into the world. The Eight of Wands is where you find that energy kind of feeds in and of itself and really grows, that infinity, as, golden ratio exponentially increases, from 1 to 1 to 3 to 5 to 8, and that becomes, part of that trajectory. So there is momentum and there is growth, but you're not believing in yourself is what I'm getting. Or, you've created things, but you're afraid to show it. And this is very much, like it's a fully bloomed flower hand, and shooting out all of this energy, from intuition into light, and where we get not only that pure red that we were lacking in this card, that pure red of that fire energy, but into golds and yellows, which says a lot to me about expression of light, and expression of, you know, like chakra colors. Yellow is solar plexus, and it's your expression of confidence in a lot of ways. So yeah, that Seven of Pentacles in this death, I feel like, is that lack of confidence. And then back to everything that we picked in the beginning, that Chariot is the blessing of all of these things, and, you know, everything in the numbers here, and that Chariot is that expression of trusting yourself and trusting all of those sources that you get your power from. Because, like I said, you have all of that in you. You know, if you don't have a candle on you, if you don't have a glass of water near you, if you don't feel grounded, if you don't feel clear air, you have the capacity to be able to create all of those things. And I'm sure there's like a meme I've seen recently or whatever, and it's like you don't have to have all of these accessories to be a witch or to be powerful in any fashion or in any form, because you have all of that within you, and it's literally an electric force that's just waiting to be utilized, or waiting to be shown off, if it hasn't already been utilized, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot, and I hope that Seven of Pentacles is something that really rings true in your heads. Like, even to the flowers growing beneath him and the ground that he walks on. Like, he is gifted in synchronicity of numbers, and is just failing to see that he is the seventh pentacle. So let's turn that card upright. All right, let's see what numbers have to say for us, because they're much more of a literal quality. So let's focus on that. How to turn this Seven of Pentacles upright so that we can move with this Chariot energy and bring like namaskaram to these solar and lunar hands holding down this Five of Wands. Okay. If you are watching this, then you're resonating. So focus on that with me. How can we flip this Seven of Pentacles and acknowledge these sources of energy, and continue to shroud ourselves in this purple light from bottom to top? So you're here with me, homie. Put your hands out like there's a deck of cards in front of you, and you're going to take a couple of deep breaths with me. Deep inhale, and on that exhale, much like raising Kundalini energy, imagine a shadow card raising on that exhale into your hands. Take a deep breath in and out. Interesting. So even just with just breathing before, and kind of, I'm sure, independently, there was a lot of tension, like gripping very hard, and with that, I feel like again, I feel like maybe there's something you've already been working on but are afraid of sharing with people, or maybe like scared of it, or not feeling like it's appropriate to share, or what have you. But it's expansive. It wants to push past my fingers. So rather than clenching tightly to it, allow it to grow. That's what the energy wants to do. And let's see. All right. Okay. Ace of Spades at the bottom. Which is great because he's like playing poker, and if we know anything about poker, it's the poker face. It's the not letting anybody know what you have. And maybe you have nothing, but maybe you have like flush. And with all of this creative energy, I'm getting the vibe that we've got a hand. We've got a playable hand. And it's inverted, so you're questioning that, don't have faith in that, or you're not seeing that. Or you're not tapping into the moon, because the only eye he has is his right eye. So you're not making peace with the vibrations of the way the moon has affected the waters in our body, the waters in the world. And he's blind in the left eye. You're blind to the light. Blind to the hand that you have. And so we have 9 of clubs, 8 of clubs, King of Spades. 2 very high spades cards. Interesting. And then those wands are very much, or clubs are very much like wands and very much like that fire energy. So we are starting out with that point again. This 9 of clubs. She's very, her eyes are like bloodshot and jaundiced. Typically this card has a very positive vibe for me. I'm not getting that this time. I'm very much getting more so that she's looking off into the distance, sort of like ditzy, like not paying attention. You know, like if you're walking plugged up to your music, you know, blasted, yes, it can be great, but when you need to be aware of your surroundings, it takes you out of presence and it takes you out of the moment. And just something I'm noticing based off the way that she's looking is she's gazing over to her right, which is, if I recall correctly, channeling that left brain, which is, you know, logic and structure and framing. So again, kind of that grasping and boundaries. And I feel like that's where we're calling to ourselves lately, rather than thinking right brain and paying attention to our heart space and our art and our creativity and all the things we can do with that. We're getting lost in not pleasant daydreams that are, you know, causing our eyes to get bloodshot, maybe, if we're not noticing it, and putting parameters on things that don't have any right now. And I feel like that's true even in the outside world. You know, people are like so matter of fact about things, and in reality we really don't know anything, or anything that's to come or is going to happen. And while that can fuel paranoia, that can also fuel great potentiality. And I feel like that's what a source of fear is, that, you know, unknown and that unexpectedness. Rather than channeling into that potentiality, we're just separating ourselves from the situation altogether. If I'm stuck in my daydreams, if I'm stuck in, you know, just binge watching Netflix instead of doing the things that I know that I really want to do, that can generate a little bit more joy for me, that I'm even maybe feeling called to do, to generate a little bit more joy for me, we're kind of ignoring these things, and we're just resorting to our logical brain because that feels safe. But it's not. It's doing an incredible disservice to our strengths and our intuition. So then, and nines is like potentiality of almost complete cycles, but it's also a step before the line. So I feel like that's also where you could say that's, close to the end of the cycle or whatever. I feel like that's an inability to take the last step. Are you just towing the line for the sake of towing the line because you're afraid of walking through the doorway? Which is something really funny. I used to be a bouncer, and I guess I still am, but the bars are closed. And one of my biggest pet peeves was people would just kind of linger in doorways or hallways or in front of doors, in these places of transition. And it was like, yo, make a choice. You can't just block traffic. I need you to go in or out. One or the other, please. And it always kind of boggled my mind that people would get angry or offended or would not realize that was, something that was impeding space of others or was impeding their ability to, dance to their favorite song, get another drink, or, go smoke a cigarette they've been wanting to smoke, or, call their friggin' cab or whatever it was. It was a place of indecision. And I read something once about how in other cultures and in some indigenous cultures, there were sort of like a divider, like a small divider in between, in the midst of the doorway to sort of separate the rooms, so that you had to make an active choice and step into one room or another. You couldn't linger in indecision, as if that was a good place to be. And I feel 100% like that's where that's going. And again, kind of discussing that fear, because it steps down into the Eight of Wands, and she's brewing, she's cooking. And anything that's stewing, where we're trying to create more flavor, create more simmering, really bring out the essences of those herbs, or really, allow rice or whatever to really soak up all of that moisture. But you still can dry it out and burn it. And, you can't leave it on the stove for forever. At some point, it has to be done. And so I feel like this is constantly that wavering, maybe, of, whatever decision it is, whatever project it is, whatever it is that you're feeling called to, or feeling called to, or to create, or to exist in, or to move toward, with that Seven of Pentacles and that Chariot and, antithesis, Death card. You're letting it brew too long. You still can taste test. You still can, it's like you see those, I don't know, instances with soups, and it's like, oh, but maybe it's done here. Apply that, call upon your ancestors, call upon your homies, whatever it is, and allow them to take you in and taste you. The world will spit you out if you're lukewarm. I know it's like a Bible thing too, but nobody likes fucking lukewarm tap water. Or unseasoned sauces, pasta sauces. I know I add extra herbs to any pasta sauce I buy. There's also just in her hair and making a mess, and it's how long have you been cooking this? How long have you been cooking this that you've been afraid of extending any of that information or energy? You can cook it forever, but that's 100% where all of these cards are coming from, I think. And even if you are cooking the most brilliant stew, and it takes this long to create, and You know, I've got to make sure that it's tasting right. What good is that deliciousness, is that fulfillment, is that nourishment if we're not sharing it? And the thing about eights too, again, is it's kind of that infinity, and that giving and taking of energy we have to put out into the world for it to come back to us. That ebb and flow of waves and water, and how we channel that, especially in times of fire. Especially in times of fire. Yeah, you gotta stir the pot. You gotta stir the pot, and you gotta share it. A very literal, it's a very literal metaphor, but food is something that brings us together. Food is also something, families have their intense conversations or what have you over the dinner table. You catch up with your friends in extreme times over, lunch together, brunch together, what have you. But sharing these treats in life is really what brings us together. So holding on to this and tearing it apart or confining it, holding on to it and confining it, and holding too tightly isn't what you need to be doing. You have to share that energy. Holding too tightly isn't bringing anybody together. It feels like the safe thing to do, but it's a disservice to you as well, which is why we have this death card reversed. Excuse me. I feel like we're letting some stuff go. Spades is also like air, so it's kind of funny that like every time I've talked air, I've been getting like gassy, and I think that's because we need to move through that fog. We need to move through the humidity even. It can be suffocating and it can be thick, but we can cut through that if we, just are la-di-da and, taking ourselves out of the present moment like this Nine of Wands is, or Nine of Clubs is, then that air is going to be suffocating. Or that's when you get indigestion. You're not moving through these things. You're burping, this and that. So, King of Spades is shoveling a lot of compacted snow. I love colors. I love colors in these because he's missing all of his toes. He has a green scarf and he has red hat mittens. So again, that kind of red, pure heart energy, fire energy comes up. And I feel like that's not only in your hands in creation, but in creation in your crown, in creation of where that source energy can kind of fluctuate within, left and right brain. And bringing those two things together in one entity with, his hat and what have you. And like I said earlier, that green energy is that pure heart energy. Or that green color is that pure heart energy, that like deep in the back of your heart energy. And he has a green scarf, which is very much, speaking your truth, and creating that reflection of internal, external again, that, growth in life and and everywhere that green has been in these has been small but definite. It's like small but very definite and very bright. And I think that speaks a lot to, going with heart desires and being true to the purpose that you feel like you're being called to now, because it is something that will flourish. He's missing all of his toes, which extraneous limbs and extended nerve endings. But in times of winter, that comes when we're standing too still for too long in the same place, that, you know, frostbite sets in, and that cold really starts to enter into us. So I do feel like this is kind of like, you know, don't let the snow build, don't let the coldness in your heart build, don't let the coldness in your right brain functions build through, you know, that left brain analytical distancing, and detachment. Clear those paths. It may be really tough and compacted. If you've ever shoveled snow in Chicago, you know what the heck I'm talking about. So that you can have clear paths to walk in, and that every bit of your extraneous antenna can move safely, so that we don't lose, you know, the tips of our fingers and the tips of our extended power. Spades is air, but it's also swords, and it's also very much mental strife. So I feel like this is clearing away doubt, clearing away the disunite of our left and right brains, clearing away insecurity, clearing away all of this inverted death card energy, so that we can have faith and knowing in the hand that we've been dealt, and the hand that we know we can play, or have faith that we can play it, even if we're doubtful, because that doubt is oil in your waters. It's toxicity, and it'll keep you from moving, but it'll also poison your flowers, and then you'll never be walking on this growth, and you won't see that seventh pentacle as you. Yeah, damn. I feel all of this hardcore, and it's intense. I love and appreciate all of you. I hope to, and this is my way of kind of sharing my stew and all of my flavors, which may feel silly and simple, but even if it brings a smile or joy or healing to one person, that's plenty. That's one more than was before, and that's one more that is quelling the fire energy that is literally surrounding us and rising up and boiling in us. So we have to acknowledge these things and be active with it. We can't just be, you know, la-di-da, this Nine of Wands, and disconnected and only on one side of reality. The only way to get, like I said, the only way to get to this, to make peace with this Five of Wands, is understanding the reflective nature of the four that comes before it. And the reflective nature even of the six that we stand, or the six pentacles that we stand on, and the Seven of Pentacles. So, you know, meditate on that, and this is a time where we can create the world that we want to see. And we are surrounded in all kinds of craziness, but our intuitions are higher than ever, and our connection to our ancestors are becoming more and more vocalized and important to everybody, not just people that have been, you know, practicing for however long or whatever before this. Yeah, shroud yourself in all of that power, because all of it is in you. This is one of my favorite cards, especially when I'm feeling kind of down on my powers. So please screenshot it, meditate on it, recognize that this is you, this is your creative energy, and it can be an infinitely growing thing, and something to share, and something of nourishment, of beautiful, flavorful, wonderful nourishment. Yeah, that's intense. That's a lot going on. I feel for all of you. I very much can feel a lot of that too. So my heart goes out to you, especially with this King of Spades, because I just saw something today that was like, I'm not ready for winter. I've never liked Chicago winter. So this definitely is just like, oh shit. But we're all feeling that. And in a lot of ways, I feel like this calls me to extend that understanding and compassion to all of you in this time and in this game of life. You know, we're all sitting at the poker table, feeling like we got Jack. But yeah, I'm here with you, and I'm recognizing all of the heat and recognizing where we seal ourselves off and create coldness in our hearts as well. So here's to heating shit up. Party on. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope this resonated. I hope this clarified some stuff. Yeah, and let me know if you like the shorter versions of these. I guess it's not even that short. Yeah, let me know in general, I guess, if that resonated or if that rang true for you at all. But until then, party on. And I'll catch you on the flip side, motherfucker.